Hi and welcome to Shoot What You See. Today I'm doing a kind of video tutorial on self-critique. What I learned kind of early on was to critique your own images first and foremost. It's good to go out and take advice from other photographers, but depending on what that photographer's interests are depends on the kind of critique you're going to get back. So if you, like me, have a lot of natural light images and you go to a photographer who's mainly a studio photographer, the critique's going to be slightly different because they're interested in perfect lighting, where with natural light you're not always going to get that. So it's always good to, I would still say, get critique from others. Just be obviously wary of what that critique is and the reasons behind that critique. But it is good to see what other people's kind of negative and positive thoughts are on the image, so that you can then go away and think to yourself, well, is that right? Is it wrong? Do I still love the image as much? So I'm going to critique two images. They're kind of older images from me. I think they're probably about a year old. Maybe one of them slightly older. I can't honestly remember taking that many images over the time I've been doing photography. I'm going to discuss what the location was. I'm going to mention what the sort of pros and cons were that were given to me. So anyway, while we've been talking, you've obviously seen the image that I've got up in front of us at the moment, and you'll have your own thoughts from having looked at it. You know, does it really strike you as a good image? Does it strike you as a bad image? We all have our own personal thoughts. To me, it was a great image. And the reason for that is because the conditions that we were shooting in were really harsh, overhead, bright sunlight. We were in an open field with no shaded area whatsoever. We got some of the shots, there was a lot of kind of high shadow and high bright parts on the image, which for me kind of ruined some of the images. So towards the end of the shoot, we decided to sit down and kind of change positions. I mean, when I did this shot, I was still kind of learning a lot about natural light photography and kind of learning how sun position, sun type, weather type affects the image. So during the course of the trial on this day, I decided to put the models kind of back to the sunlight, or well, as you can see from the image, the sunlight's kind of coming from behind the model, but on the kind of left of the image, so kind of left back, it's coming across at a diagonal angle. And as a result of that, you got this kind of darker tones to the skin that were out of the sun, obviously caused by the shadow. But because we're sitting in a field with green grass and those golden bits on the grass as well, it kind of created a nice tone to the skin, which is why you're seeing that really nice kind of soft golden kind of texture to the skin. Now, kind of thinking on critique that I had on the image, one of the big ones was the fact that you can't see the eyes. And a lot of people say that when you're doing person photography, portrait photography specifically, you want to get the eyes. In my opinion, you don't always need the eyes. I think that what the face does as a whole tells a different story to what just the eyes looking at you does. I mean, certainly the eyes looking at you tell you a lot about the person as well, and that's maybe one of the reasons why people expect that. But I certainly don't think that the fact that we can't see the model's eyes, she's not really paying attention to me at all. I don't think it takes anything away from this image whatsoever. In fact, I would argue that it adds something to this image. I think it sets a certain mood, and I just think it kind of does finish the image off. Now, the other kind of critique I got on this was the whole thing to do with the tone of the lighting. The fact that it does kind of blend across, where we go from the sort of brightness on the forehead down to the much duller tone on the kind of lips and chin. And the question I always got was, why not put a reflector there, or why not set a speed light up to balance the lighting out a little bit. And I come back to the thing that I'm kind of shoot what you see, this whole thing of capturing the moment. Now with this using a model, obviously it's posed, you're not really capturing as much of that, but in natural light you're using what you have. And again, I think that what the model and myself achieved here is we've created a mood. The sunlight's helped create that mood. The fact that the shadow there's created that mood, and it is, to me, it's enhanced the fact that here we have this stunning looking model with great features. If you ever meet her, she's a great personality, and we've got this soft moment, this kind of thinking moment, and this is has been for a long time one of my favourite images. So again, I mean, you'll have your own thoughts on it. By all means, post your thoughts on the image. I'd be very interested to see what people think of it as a whole, and what you think the strengths and weaknesses are, because there is no bad critique, there's only mixed opinion. So what we'll do now is we'll move on to the second image. So with the second image, you'll notice straight away a huge difference in lighting and things like that. So a bit of background on this one. We're actually shooting indoors, as you can probably gather from the little background that we have in it. We're actually standing by some doors. It was actually a flat we're in, about second floor, and have large windows onto a very smallish balcony. Now, the day that we were shooting, it was actually quite bright outside, but the sun positioning meant that that light wasn't spilling in harsh into the house. It was quite a subtle light coming over, and you can kind of tell by the skin tones that that's been the effect. It's not been too bright, it's not overpowering and bring out lots of huge white parts of the skin. Now, I'll jump straight into the kind of critique that I got with this image, and you'll probably have, some of you who have done photography for a while will probably pick up on it and understand it. But one of the main critiques was the two eyes. If you look at the two eyes, obviously the one on the right of the image is kind of starting to sink into the shadow, kind of be hidden in some way, and it's not as predominant as the left eye. The left eye is very clear. And people like balancing images. When people are looking at portraits, like to see both eyes, like both eyes to be balanced well in regards to lighting. The other critique that I received was in regards to the shadow in this one again. Again, we've got the situation, we've got nice bright area starting from the left of the image and kind of moving into a dark area, like a gradient effect, to the right of the image, where we're almost getting close to a shadow at the same kind of depth as the hair colour. And also we've got that dark shadow by the right of the nose. Taking all of that on board, I mean, again, I would agree in some ways with the critique that's given. You know, that the lighting isn't perfect, and yes, maybe throwing a reflector in on the side to kind of balance that light out, or just to soften the features on the right side to balance in and blend better into the left side, I suppose all in all maybe would be fair critique. But again, does it destroy the image? And in my mind, it doesn't destroy the image at all, because again, you've shot what you wanted to shoot, and that's a model in natural light, not really caring that it's not well balanced and lighting on both sides. You've kind of got, you know, if you put a bit of paper over one side, you've got a different, you know, two different sides. People talk about mirror effect on images, where, you know, if you're looking at a face, you want a nice kind of even tone on both sides. You don't have that here. But again, to me, this is still one of my favourite images that I've taken. And I certainly wouldn't go back and change anything. I wouldn't put a reflector in there, because I think that capturing the image as it was has turned out brilliantly. One of the other big feedbacks that I got with this image was the fact that the hair doesn't stand out from the background. You'll, if you've done photography for a while, you'll probably know about creating hair lights. If you've not done photography before, it's basically we'd have a light aimed at the hair to make it kind of stand out. If you've got a darker background, it makes it pop from that background and give it its own sort of dimension. For me, again, and you'll hear this in a lot of the tutorials that I'm going to do in the future, and I've mentioned in the blog, I go with a shoot what you see kind of take on photography. If it's what I see and it looks good, capture that. Don't mess with it. Don't, add in speed lights, reflectors, and change the image. If the image looks good as you see it, don't be scared to take that, because again, it sets the tone of the image. It creates a mood for the image. Something that, if I was to add another light in, might have taken away from the image as a whole. So there is a few things on this. I mean, if I was to Photoshop this, you've got some stray hairs that people would say remove. But again, it's a real image. It's you're looking at a model, again, a very good looking model, very unique in her features, and an image that stands out on its own. And again, if you've got your own thoughts on the image, as before, I mean, don't be afraid to put your own comments against it. I have no problems with any negative feedback on images, because I know that I took an image that I love, and I will take on board anything that somebody feels about it, because what they're saying will be true, and it'll be true to them, and they will have things that they would change and tweak to make the image what they would like in an image. And that's the big thing to remember when you're getting critique from anyone, is what they would like in the image. And don't take that as harsh and negative in any way, because they're there to try and help improve it to what they would look for. If you're the same and you say, well, I wouldn't want that in an image for myself, then don't be scared of that. Take the image that you want to take. On a lot of images I've done in the past, I don't do skin softening, for instance. And I have been advised in the past that the model doesn't look like the person. Well, they do look like the person, they're just not edited to look like a different person. So again, do what you want with the image, so long as you can look at that image for yourself and go, I've done a good job there, or I like the job that I've done. And I'll be honest, the number of shots I've taken where there's been so many bad points with very few good points, but then I've used that image to show a potential client the kind of portraits that I look to do. The positive feedback I get from those clients and the number of bookings I would get from people have been tremendous. There's been a lot of great things come from images with which, I suppose from a photographer point of view, have a lot of disadvantages to it. You'd be surprised. So again, show your work and be happy with the work you've got, and know that you're always going to improve on that. And I've kind of rambled now, kind of got off plot, but again, that's just 2 images that I've done. And I think I've shown as well that working outdoors in harsh conditions or indoors with what light you can get, I've shown that just with your camera you can get great results without going to the expense of lots of other equipment. So if you've got a camera, and before you go and buy anything else, learn to use the camera well, learn how to use the different settings and modes, and produce results like this that you're happy with. So I hope to hear from some of you, and I will speak to you all again on the next tutorial.